morning, everyone, and welcome to another Fed League Flash video. I'm on the set, and River Dragons had a post, and they wanted to see people wearing River Dragon stuff from outside of the Columbus area. Here I am in northeastern Pennsylvania doing a Fed League Flash video, and there you go. So, today I wanted to talk about the Monroe Moccasins because a couple of reasons. One is they are quite the interesting story. Uh, of course, as we all know, there's not a whole lot of information coming out, except from Monroe. Lots of news coming out of Monroe. And this is really good, really strong start to the franchise. Of course, the franchise doesn't start on the ice; they start off the ice. And Parker Mescal and Nick Perkin seem to be doing a lot of really good stuff right now. And so, want to break down a little bit about the roster that they've compiled, and is this kind of a push to say, hey, we are all in? If you remember, Nick Perkin in the introductory presser said our goal is to win the whole thing in year one, and so obviously that kind of keyed a flurry of activity. And Mescal and Perkin showing that they are for real, that they are not planning on being your typical expansion franchise. And some of that is by necessity as well, being that we still don't have everything cleared up with the expansion draft. I'm figuring that should be announced within the next few days. I'm hoping. Monroe has decided, yep, we're going to start signing our roster. Now, these are all PTOs right now. No team, being that we have not yet had the expansion draft, no team is allowed to sign their players for the full contract. These are PTOs, but in principle, you would think that with names like these, that this is going to be the core of the Monroe lineup on opening day. All right, and obviously, if you've been a follower of the Fed for the past few years, there's a lot of familiar names up there. All right, we don't have any. We don't have any rookies, although a couple of these players still do qualify as rookies, at least under the under what we have been using the last few years. Rookie, pro, veteran. Still not sure if they're changing that or not. Anyway, just based off of that, a couple of rookies, but most of these players are either the pro or veteran level. Starting off with Kyle Stevens. Stevens has been around the league for a while now, an old Elmira enforcer. That's where he really had his best seasons. 214 games played and 188 points. So that is 0.86 points per game, which is very good. Obviously, as we go through this, we're going to just mention this. All these forwards, most of them, just one exception, are averaging right around a point per game. All right, Marquise Grant-Mentis. 67 games played, 56 points. That's 0.836 per game. We have Chris Corrigan. He's our exception, but he'll be joining the club apparently. 72 games, 34 points. That's just under half a point per game. But you also need role players. situational players. Obviously, you can't compile a quote unquote all-star team and not have support players. So Chris Corrigan falls into that role. Brad Ryder, who's played a couple of years with Motor City, 71 games, 63 points. That's .887 points per game. Matthias Tellstrom, 60 games, 54 points, .9 points per game. And then we have the most recent signing, Mo Levac. Yep, Levac is back. And yeah, after playing in the SP last year, he was convinced, I guess you could say, to come back to the Fed, be a good leader and mentor for the younger players. Levac is number 5 all time in scoring in the Fed, 347 games played, 420 points, averaging up 1.21 points per game. All right, so that is your core group with forwards. Levac and Moscow go way back, so it's not a surprise to me really to see Mo back. I think after a couple of experiences he had, he just wanted to make sure that if he comes back to the Fed, he wanted to come back to the right situation, and he felt like this is a good fit for him. Now, defensive core, again, experienced people. Taylor Cutting, 144 games of Fed experience. He is number 7 all time in penalty minutes, one minor, and he becomes number 6. So, yeah, he adds a lot of toughness, 632 penalty minutes. And you have Bryce French on the back end, played in Blue Ridge for a bit. He is 111 games of experience in the Fed. And Tyson Lambert, who played last year with the Mississippi Seawolves, 55 games played. Now, the only problem that I have, well, kind of a two-pronged problem. One is that we don't have a goalie yet. I feel that it's very important to have a successful team on the ice that you need to have your goalie or goalies in place relatively early. So it's a bit surprising to me that Monroe hasn't gone out and grabbed one. I'm sure they probably will in the next few days. That would not surprise me. So this defensive core, you got 3 guys, and I'm saying this with the caveat that plus minus doesn't tell the whole story. All right. Plus minus is a little bit of a truer indication for defensemen than it is for forwards as far as how you're performing on the ice. But again, there's so many different statistics and metrics. Plus minus only tells a small fraction of the story. So I'm not picking on these guys, but a minus 88 at first glance is a little disconcerting. I'm not saying that these guys can't formulate the core of the D. Obviously, there's only 3 here, so there's going to be more. And also remember that the expansion draft is eventually coming, and so that is going to help Monroe bolster their core. Now, as well, they're going to be signing players throughout the summer. Okay, the regulations as far as how big your roster can be during the summer is significantly different than during the season. Last summer, I don't know if it's the same this summer, but last summer, you could have up to 45 players signed to PTOs. All right. So, yeah. And then you go to camp and you find out who's going to make your team, who's not. You might trade some players. So, this is just, I guess you could say, the cornerstone for the team. Okay, Monroe's not looking at this saying, "This is our whole team." That's not going to happen. They're going to bring in the right people. They're gonna try and find a fit, but they've checked off one box in that they wanted to make sure that going into the season that they had good, experienced veteran leadership. They have that, okay, with these players that they have signed. They have players who know how to navigate the Fed. All right. So, does experience matter? Well, it can help. But just as a comparison, I thought, just for giggles, mentioned how the Binghamton Black Bears, who won the Commissioner's Cup this last year, started off. They started off with a very young group. Now, they did have some experienced players like Don Olivieri and Tyson Kirkby and Gavin Yates and whatnot, but a lot of their players had very little to no Fed experience, and they ended up winning the cup. All right. In the group of forwards, Justin Samaro had 9 games of Fed experiences at the beginning of the year. Andrew Largar, 8. Connor Smith, 6. Brendan Stanko only played for the first a month and a half, 5. Defense, you had Dan Weber, 2 games. That was it. That was it for the defensive grouping of youngsters. Goalies, 3 goalies coming in. None of them had any Fed experience. So you look at this group. This is 13 players, over half of their team, with a grand total of 30 games of Fed experience. And they won the cup. So experience isn't everything. It does help, especially in the locker room. Now, Kirkby filled that role for Binghamton. Molovac is going to more than do that for the Moccasins, as well as Kyle Stevens. And then you had all of these other players that have a lot of experience too. You've got Cutting's been around since the original Danville Dashers. These guys know what it means to play in the FPHL. So, basically you have 2 different philosophies here. You have core group, big core group with experience. You have small core group with experience and a lot of youngsters. They both can work. You could have the same results. You could end up with 2 championships. Maybe not. It's hard to tell. That's why the game is played on ice and not on paper. One of the hardest things about doing these podcasts is that I'm pretty much limited to what's on paper, or in this case, on whiteboard. But nonetheless, these players have proven themselves on the ice. So Parker Muscal is banking on that translating into this upcoming season. So they've made things very interesting. At the very, very least, if nothing else has been accomplished, this has been accomplished by Monroe, is that they are prevalent in the media and everyone's attention. I mean, you're not hearing a whole lot coming out of Athens, not hearing a lot coming out from the Dashers right now. But Monroe, they're gearing up. They're acting like the season is starting tomorrow. There's a lot of urgency in that, and that can really help them in this upcoming season. But the immediate impact is it's going to help ticket sales. It's going to help interest in the community. It's going to draw more attention to Monroe. So, this is all a good thing. So anyway, I just wanted to take a look at Monroe and kind of break down what they've done so far. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this is a good core? Do you think this is just the beginning? Do you think that there's more coming? let me know. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I am Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash, and we'll catch you tomorrow here on YouTube.